Okay, so a very good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the security stream for the GSE conference. Most of you know me by now, but if you don't, my name's Jamie Pease. I'm the chairman of the security stream. Just a couple of things before we get started with this next session. So this session is being recorded, so you will be able to, if you have to drop out or you've got colleagues who are also signed up who are not able to join the session, they will be able to listen to the replay in a few days' time. Don't forget throughout the session, this is a pre-recorded session, so I'll be doing the playback in a moment. You can post your questions in the chat, so please do that. Mark Wilson, who's one of the co-presenters for this session, is actually on the stream now, so he'll be keeping an eye on the chat and will be available at the end of this session to take your questions. Don't forget, this is session 1AR for the purpose of feedback, so keep your fingers poised on the button at the end of this session to give your feedback. Mark and Keith will talk about that and also the charity as well. One moment while I just switch over to the recording. I hope you enjoy it.
Hello, Mark.
Hello, mate. How you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Good. Well, I suppose we ought to do this presentation then, haven't we?
I think we better. When are we on?
Tuesday, 10:30.
Oh, okay.
So
we've got a couple of weeks. It's not that bad.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine. So, can you remember what we were doing?
I actually don't know.
Right. Well, I thought that might be the case, so I've printed off the abstract. So here we go. It said, title: no point in the moat, in a moat if the drawbridge is open. So I think you came up with that title, which is good. The abstract is credential misuse is still prevalent across the industry, meaning that the front door is permanently open. ZOS shops should be looking to modernize their security processes by undertaking regular assessments and deploying stronger MFA. I still can't believe we're still discussing MFA for the mainframe, but there you go.
So, is a drawbridge up or down?
Oh, well, we've put it's open, so is it open or is it shut? Drawbridges are sort of up or down, aren't they, like that? But open? No, good point, really.
Does down mean anything from a security perspective?
It doesn't really, does it? Because your security server's never going to be down, is it? It's always going to be sort of exposed, if you like. You're going to leave a gap and it's going to be open in some way. It's never going to be down, is it?
So, although technically it should be down, open makes more sense though, doesn't it? Surely.
Yeah. Let's stick with open. We'll go with open.
Okay, we'll go with open.
Hi, and welcome to this session on mainframe security. A big thanks to everyone for taking time out of their busy schedules to come and listen to our presentation. I say ours, it's going to be myself and Mark Wilson. My name is Keith Bannon. I'm the R&D manager at Macro 4. My career started back in 1980, so I've been working in IT for 40 years now, and it's been always working with mainframes. And it's always been involved in directly or indirectly with security around the mainframe. I remember joining the bank, and one of the first projects we did was to upgrade to MVS XA. And as a trainee developer, it was all very exciting to suddenly get 31-bit addressing and all that extra storage. Macro 4 is based in Crawley in the UK, which is our R&D headquarters, and it's also the EMEA headquarters for UNICOM Global. Macro 4 was bought out by UNICOM Global back in 2009. But Macro 4 itself was established back in 1968. So the company's been going for 52 years, and I've actually been there for 34 of those years. A little bit about UNICOM Global, formed by Corey Hong back in 1981. Corey Hong is a big advocate of the mainframe. He was one of the first companies to get a Z14, and Corey, in effect, started his company by writing a Kix application, which he then sold on, and the company grew from that. So I say that we were bought out by Corey and UNICOM back in 2009, and it's really good. Corey understands the importance of the mainframe, and therefore he's invested in it and backs it, which is really great. So me and Mark are now going to talk about security. A lot of the threats and cyber attacks that happen, a lot of that seems to appear to be Windows-based, but of course it does affect the mainframe as well. So we're going to take you through a few of those threats that are out there and hopefully give you some ideas of how to counter that, or at least understand what's going on. So I'll hand you over to Mark.
Thank you very much, Keith. Lovely introduction as always. Know many of you out there, but very quick introduction. Mark Wilson. I'm the Senior Director of Consulting Services at BMC Software these days. I started as a mainframer in 1980, tender age of 16, trainee computer operator, introduced to mainframes, and have been doing it ever since. As I said, started as a trainee operator, became an operator, shift lead, a senior operator, shift leader, became a systems programmer, then became a consultant, and back in 2005 formed RSM Partners as a mainframe services business, and we developed. As we grow, we develop services from a professional services and managed services and support perspective. Back in March of 2020, March the 11th to be exact, we were acquired by BMC, and it's that RSM Partners and BMC combination of skills and software and automated mainframe intelligence that forms now what we call BMC Mainframe Services. So we've gone from RSM to BMS. But at the back of BMS, BMC Mainframe Services, is the same great team that we built over all those years as RSM. In fact, the team's got bigger. We've been recruiting quite rapidly, so the team's increased significantly. We have a real mix of very experienced to some juniors. So we've got people with 40 plus years experience to those with 12 months experience. But what that gives us is over 1,500 years of real world mainframe experience, with our average being 20 plus years within the team. Sometimes get asked by folks, Mark, in one slide, what is it you do? So two very, very simple graphics. Bunch of mainframe systems programmers, we fix problems, we do stuff, we do software migrations, we do data center migrations, we do software upgrades, we do software troubleshooting. One of our specialist subjects, and one of the reasons I'm here talking to you today with Keith, is our mainframe security specialism. And we do a lot of security stuff. Out of the team, probably got about 25 mainframe security consultants. So that's my introduction to you all. Hope you enjoyed the session. Really looking forward to presenting this to you with Keith. We've tried to make it a little bit entertaining. So thank you very much for being here.
Oh dear. Well,
hello, Mark.
Here we go again. Hello, mate. All right.
All right.
Yeah.
It's good. Well, I watched the intros. They looked all right.
Yeah, well, I thought they went well. Would you change anything?
So, yeah. Right. So what are you drinking this evening then?
Well, I've actually got a nice cold beer.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, nice cold beer. Trying to keep the weight off, not trying to drink too much.
Wow. That's a real problem for me. I mean, I think I've been good. I've stuck with the red wine and the chocolate. And I mean, once a day, I've just had 1 glass of wine and 1 bar of chocolate. And I'm piling on the weight. I just don't understand it. And of course, we got Christmas coming. Come January, I'm going to look like a Teletubby.
I am not going to pass comment on that, mate. Cheers.
Right. Cheers, Mark. Let's start on the presentation. It's called No Point in the Moat if the drawbridge is already open. And this is going to be, as we said, myself and Mark presenting. A couple of slides from GSE. As me and Mark are both on the committee, we feel obliged that we ought to put these in. So the QR code on the bottom left for you. Some more details about the charity. Please contribute if you can. And the agenda. So first of all, I'd like to talk about some of the cyber attacks that are happening. Basically, I'm going to look at what perceived as Windows attacks, but because the mainframe's secure, isn't it? So that's what I'll be looking at. And obviously, an answer to all this is multi-factor authentication. So we'll be looking at that. And then Mark's going to have a presentation on credential reuse and how to protect against it. So let's get going. Now, I love this slide. Now, this is how I perceive all security administrators. Okay, a knight in shining armor, protecting the good from the bad, etc., etc. Or maybe that's just how I see myself. And of course, the big issue is you can put as much security in as you like, but it's no good if you leave one avenue open, hence the a moat and the drawbridge analogy. So what we're going to have a look at is sort of Windows, what are perceived as Windows problems, and then we'll come on to how they affect the mainframe as well. I'm going to show a slide of half a dozen type of attacks that are out there at the minute. I'm sure there's more, and there will be more in the future. But the key to all this is it's about knowledge and letting your staff know what these attacks look like and how they're coming in. It's all about, a lot of it's about education of your staff. And they're all interlinked these days. Although I'm going to go through each one, you'll see there's overlaps between each of the styles of attack. So the good old password. Now, lots of mainframe companies are still using just passwords. Hopefully, they've even gone to passphrase, although we think the adoption of that has been quite slow. So, and of course, you'd think that everybody's going to be using different passwords for different applications. It's a sensible thing to do, but you'd be surprised how many people still use the same password. And the worst case scenario is that they're using the same password at home as they're using at work. So if someone can hack into their home environment, get the password, they can then use it to log on to their work environments, which is really, obviously really bad. Passwords, you can make even passwords really tricky for the criminals, because if you just use, let's say you got passphrase involved and your name's Peter Smith and your password is Peter Smith, it's going to take them, an hour to crack that password. But if you start changing it, so in Peter Smith, you start changing the S on Smith to a $sign and the I to a special character, suddenly it's different. Suddenly it becomes days that it's going to take them to hack that. But they still, that's not the end of the world for them. However, if you start adding random special characters in, or even just a random password that has no correlation to anything, then we start talking about it takes some years to actually try and crack these passwords. So if you're going to use passwords, you need to have rules in place that stop people from using simple passwords that are easily cracked by the criminals. Malware. Now, malware is probably one of the first viruses that came about. Everyone should be aware of it. It's fairly straightforward. You just got to be mindful of what you download, what you install, what you execute. If it hasn't come from a reliable source, potentially you're going to put malware on your system. And the malware will monitor keystrokes and screens, and so they see where passwords are being entered, and then they save what you've keyed in and email it out or push it out to the criminals so they can reuse it. Fairly straightforward stuff. Social engineering. This is coming about now because what this is, people are always busy. And so what they're doing is they're trying to catch people out and trying to phone like there's someone in authority that phones through and somebody's in a panic, somebody wants information, and you're so keen to help out that you give out that information. And you think you've done a good deed for the day, which obviously you haven't. I've got a good story about a credit card. We were on holiday, we went to Canada, which we hadn't been to before as a family holiday. And I got a phone call from my credit card company saying that my card had been blocked because of the use of the card. It's being used in Canada, which is fair enough. You know, I was quite pleased about that. At least they were checking it and blocking it, which is good. And of course, I'm keen to get it unblocked. So the gentleman on the call says to me, all right, okay, Mr. Banham, we'd like to ask you your security questions before we can take this any further, just to check who you are. So I said to the gentleman, I said, yeah, well, okay, well, I'll start with some security questions for you, because I don't know who you are. You've just called me out of the blue. I don't know who you are. And he was like, oh, I can't do that. I can't answer these questions until you answer your questions. And I'm like, right, okay, well, now you know where I'm coming from. So I said, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll phone the fraud office at the credit card and I'll get it sorted. And he says to me, oh, Mr. Banner, would you like the number? And I'm like, no, I do not want the phone number from you because you've just called me. I'll just be calling you back. Anyway. So it just shows you it's so easy to do that someone phones you, they feel like in authority, and you just go along with it because it sounds real. And you know, if I'd have given them out my security questions, the answers, then obviously they could have used that, phoned in themselves, ordered a new card, etc. And then suddenly I've got all sorts of problems. So it's just something else to be aware of. Surfing the web. This is again another obvious one. You know, there's lots of really good sites out there that aren't true and real sites, and it's very easy to get driven towards these from ads and emails that you get, etc., etc. And of course, if you go to the wrong site, then potentially you're going to unexpectedly get involved in fraud. It could be copyright. It could be downloading something that shouldn't be downloaded in terms of copyright, and of course inappropriate content, which obviously the web is famous for. The advice is never click on the URL that you've been sent, even if it feels like it's come from someone that you trust, because that email may have been hijacked. You know, the person you trust might not know that they've already been hacked, and you're just carrying on the hack. So if you get a URL, it's much easier if you just go to your favorite browser and either key it in, or you know, go to the, you know, if it's an email from your bank, then go to the banking website yourself. You've probably got it in your favorites already. You know, go there yourself and have a look at any messages that they've sent you, etc. Phishing emails. This is another one. This is where they try and spear phishing, which is even more targeted at the person. They use social media to target people, and I'll give you an example of this. As I said, I'm the R&D manager at Macro 4, so someone might see me on Social Manager and think, oh, right, okay, if we can get Keith's password and we can get in at Macro 4, then obviously he's the R&D manager. He must have authority, and therefore we can get at stuff. So they look around, they look at my social media, they see that I've been retweeting the GSE tweets, which is fine, you know, that's great. They see that this, the original tweets came from Jamie, which is fine. So they now know that I know Jamie. They have a look at Jamie's social media activity as well. They then have a look at the GSE website. They start building up this sort of information about us. And then they put together a very convincing email. Looks like it's come from Jamie. Looks like it's genuine. It's got all the information about the GSE event and what's going on. Maybe a little thank you from Jamie for me for retweeting. So it all turns into a little bit personal and friendly, which is great. Oh, and then there's a little footnote at the bottom of it. It says, oh, by the way, small issue with your GSE account and password. Click on the link just to reset your password for me. Thanks a lot, Keith. Appreciate it. Bingo. If I click on the link, they've got me. So, you know, it's very easy to do with social media now with these phishing emails. Looks like a genuine one. It's not. It's all been put together. And of course, if they did do that to me and get my password, and I'm one of these people that has one password that I use everywhere, then suddenly, you know, they could get all my accounts and I'm in real trouble. And obviously they could log on to Macro 4 and use my authority to get around the system there as well. Social networking, yes, well, this is the overlap with the phishing, etc. They are putting on lots of websites now. They will hack websites and they will put in fake Facebook like buttons, for example. So you'll think, oh, I really like that, really nice picture of a cat. I like that, I'll send that to Facebook. You click on the old Facebook link, actually, you know, you've just been taken to a fake site and away they go and they get the information they like. The key also, something to remember about social media, things like Facebook, Twitter, etc. They're forever changing their settings and their security. So you should be checking your security and making sure it's all private and tied down. But when you do an upgrade, make sure you go and recheck all your settings, because they might have put one security option in, which you've turned off, and then the upgrades has broken that security option into 4 security options. So the top one's off, but the default for the others are now on. And so suddenly you've exposed yourself and you're totally unaware that you've done this. So my recommendation is if you ever upgrade your app on your phone or your iPad or whatever, that just pop back into the security settings and make sure that they're set how you want them. And of course, the common problem around a lot of this is that it's based on static data. Passwords are static data, information about yourself and social media, it's all static data. You know, the guy that phoned me up about the credit card and my security questions, static data. You know, what's my mother's maiden name? Now that's another little trick you should do. What you really want to do, and obviously I know my mother's maiden name and I should be using it, but you're better off actually producing a fake uncle and auntie that has different names and different birth dates and all this type of stuff. And they went to a different school. So when they say, oh, what school did you go to? You say whatever your uncle's school was. So all you got to remember is these other 2 people and what they've got. And that's how you answer all your questions, because there's nowhere on social media that they can then find that information out. You just got to remember your made up auntie and uncle and all their criteria. Use that data as well. Now, so security. Now, even back in medieval days, even they knew that you wouldn't have one line of security to protect your treasures. So here you've got a moat, it's got a drawbridge, it's got a portcullis. In the middle of the castle, you've got a keep. In the keep, it's got a strong room, and in the strong room, you've got your treasure chest, which is all padlocked up. So even they knew the importance of multiple layers of security. Now, MFA is the answer, and we all know, I've done this presentation on MFA before, 5 different factors, knowledge factors that we all know about, possession factors, biometric factors, location factors, and time factors. There's loads of different types that you can use, and I recommend you use a combination of them all. And that matches back to what we're talking about medieval times. You know, have multiple factors in place. That's what's going to protect you, not static data. So, and that way, a lot of the attacks that I was just spoken about, where they're trying to get this personal information, it's going to be blocked, because that might well be one of the factors, but you've got something else. You've got a location factor. So unless they're in the building, they can't get in, for example. Biometrics, you know, all these things. It just adds extra layers, stops them getting in there. And of course, if you can put MFA in place, it's a case of, you know, talking to customers, this is one of their challenges, is where to put MFA, where it's not an inconvenience to the end user, because what they don't want to be doing is logging on, say this is TSO, then you've got kicks, and then you've got this and that. You know, you don't want to be doing it 10 times, and then you move away from your PC, they all time out, you come back, and then you've got to do it again 10 times. That all gets frustrating. So you get pushback from your end users who say, I don't want MFA. I've never used it on the mainframe before. The Mainframe Security, it's this side of the firewall. We don't need it. You know, they can come up with all these excuses not for implementing it. So one of the answers is obviously, I would hope most of you have got a session manager, which is obviously has the benefits of simplifying access anyway to your mainframe and all your multitude of applications. And that's where maybe you should be putting your MFA. Of course, if you're going to put it on the session manager, what you need to do is stop direct access to the other applications. You don't want to bypass that people can skip around the MFA bit, then it defeats the object. Bit like the drawbridge is open. If you're going to leave the drawbridge open, what's the point in putting MFA in? Or take it back even further. Windows security. Now, you say, oh, this is a mainframe convention. What's he talking about? Well, actually, if you get on the mainframe, everyone these days logs on, first port of call is your Windows application. Then you're going to use your 3270 emulator, for example, to get onto the mainframe, or a web browser, or whatever your connectivity is. Put the security, the MFA. There's loads of work. There's loads of application and tools and products that are all based around the Windows logon. Miles more, I have to say, IBM have done a really good job of MFA on the mainframe, but there's a lot more that's on the Windows side. And you can connect up your Windows logon security with your mainframe security. We as Macro4, we don't sell security products, so this isn't a sales pitch, but we do know how to connect up Windows security with mainframe security. So if you are interested, then obviously get in contact with us, and we can give you some guidelines about how you can go about that. But this is how I would do it. I'd stick it on the Windows, because then you probably implemented MFA on Windows anyway. Then you might as well reuse all that technology and hardware and education. You've educated your staff on this, so use that as a step into the mainframe. And of course, if you're going to do all this, you need to audit everything. If anything goes wrong, someone's going to chase you for information. So you need to know what people are doing. You need to know what security they're using and how they've logged on, how they got into the system, how long they were on an application, when did they log in, when did they log out, all this sort of stuff. And there's lots of tools, lots of products that can push this stuff out. There's lots of SIEM applications out there where you can gather all this and etc. And one example, our session manager, we push stuff out to Splunk, and that's the product of choice of us, Macro4. But as I said, there's lots of them out there. This is just an example. You push stuff out, and you can actually see when people log in, log out. So if you get a problem, you can chase it back and find out who he was. You know, in this case, you got RXH, which might be interesting, but if you knew he was on holiday that week, you know, now you know you've got a problem, that somebody's pretending to be him, so you've got an issue. Okay, so that's my part of the presentation out there. We will allow questions, but it's going to be at the back end of both of the presentations. Obviously, as you realise now, these have been recorded. So at the end, me and Mark will be live to answer your questions. So a big thank you from me for listening to my part. I'm going to pass you over to Mark now, who's going to talk about is rather disconcerting knowledge of the dark web. So whilst Mark's talking to you about the dark web, I'm going to go and check my credit card statement and check there's been any motorbike purchases for delivery in the Birmingham area. So I'll pass you over to Mark. Thank you. Hello, Mark.
Hello, mate. Back again.
Yeah, you all right?
Yeah, fine. Just watch your presentation, mate. Very good. Very good.
All right. Did I get the message across?
Yeah, I think it came across really well, mate. Really well.
Well, you're up next. So just remember, though, continuity, Mark. All right?
What do you mean, continuity?
Just don't get your hair cut. Make sure you're wearing the same clothes, all right?
Okay.
We've got to look professional. We're recording all this. If you don't wear the same stuff, it's not going to look professional at all, okay? You just got to trust me on this one, Mark. Wear the same clothes.
Is it really necessary? Should
it just looks silly otherwise.
Okay, I'll do as I'm told.
Right, good. Don't let me down.
Gotcha.
So thanks very much, Keith. Entertaining as always. So I'm going to carry on with the session now. So obviously the same title, but what I'm going to talk about is actually what we call credential reuse and some ways to potentially protect against it. So the first thing to understand is what is credential reuse? What is credential theft? Okay, so as it says here, type of cybercrime that basically the perpetrators steal your authentication elements, user ID and password, okay? Because they want to become you. And this is what I quite often say to people is, if the bad actors are going to target an organization, then they won't necessarily just target the organization. They'll actually target an individual at the organization, and they'll do all kinds of different things to target that individual, from the simply finding out where they live, going and checking the waste bins, the dust bins, the trash cans, depending on where you are in the world, and pulling information from them that allows them to identify, who you are, who you bank with, your children's names, your mother's names, your mother's maiden name. How many times do we get asked that? So the whole idea of credential theft is to steal your user ID and password. And the sum of it is, if they are successful, they will have the same account privileges as you, who will become the victim. And one of my colleagues, Chad, did a presentation many years ago now to a client, and one of the systems programmers came to him afterwards and said, "But that was all made up. It was on your system, and you wouldn't be able to do that on my system." And Chad turned around to him and said, "Yeah, but can you do it on your system?" And he said, "Of course I can. I'm the systems programmer." He said, "Well, what if I became you?" And the guy turned around and said, "That's not fair. Trust me, the bad actors don't care. They don't care that this is fair or not. They are out to get access to your credentials, to get access to your systems, to get access to your data." And obviously, once that they've stolen your credentials, they can lock you out of the account, they can reset passwords, they can download data, they might be able to get access to other computers. So don't think about this as just as a mainframe issue, because I might not be able to compromise your mainframe. But what about if I could compromise a server that's on the same network that allows me to telnet into or ping that mainframe, or SSH or FTP to that mainframe? Because effectively they are you. And in the worst cases, they could destroy all your data backups. What about if they destroy all your backups, then destroy all your data? How do you recover? system. So these are the things to be thinking about. Some of you have seen me talk about the dark web, but you can actually go there and buy stolen credentials on the dark web. Yeah, as we've said many times before, it's a non-searchable hidden portion of the internet. Okay, the thing is, yeah, Google doesn't index it, the search engines don't. It's very, very popular. Very, very popular. But I have to say, the more you dig into the dark web, there's more good stuff out there than bad stuff, but there is a lot of bad stuff. One of the things you can do is check if one of your email addresses has been pawned, as they say, and HIBP, yeah, have I been pawned or pawned, whichever way around you want to say it. So you can find out if your details have been compromised in any of the many data breaches, and what you would be looking for, has your work email address or your personal email address been stolen? And it's a very popular service, commonly used tool, as we say. So yeah, the point I mention this here is, yeah, there are credentials for sale. Now you might turn around and say, yeah, but I change my password every 30 days. Yes, and the bad actors will know this. But what about if you change your password every 60 days or 90 days or 120 days or never? Yeah. And yeah, how rigorous are we in changing our passwords on our own devices as well as our work devices? Nobody likes to change a password, but we should do it very, very regularly. Okay. So how are they stolen? Well, yeah, lots of different ways. They can be extracted. What about if somebody gets a copy of the RACF database or your ACF2 system or your top secret system? Potentially, yeah, they could be extracted from there. They could be extracted from just, you know, the passwords in the clear, stored in a piece of JCL, stored in a text file, might be on a script that runs on a distributed systems, or they use what we call phishing attacks. And you know, you can go whale phishing, which is a mass blast, or you can go spear phishing, directly targeting an individual. And I've actually seen this for real. I have seen 2 people in our organization over the last 24 months targeted with a spear phishing email. One of the things, you know, I like to say to people is, you know, look at what the bad guys do and get somebody to come and do what the bad folks would do to your team and see how they react. So do fake phishing attacks, okay? Emulate what the bad folks to do. And if people click through and you know, do the wrong thing, educate them. Don't tell them off. Don't give them a hard time. Educate them. Talk to them. Explain what the situation is. Explain, you know, how to check, yeah, for phishing emails. And if in doubt, don't click. It's as simple as that. What you do find is that a lot of the websites and emails used by the bad actors are very, very what can I say? Very advanced. They're very advanced. They're very sophisticated, and you know, they make a lot of money, and they spend a lot of time making these websites and emails look so real. It's almost impossible to spot the fake ones, but you can, and this is what these testing companies that you can bring in can do that for you. So you know, that's what credential theft and credential reuse is all about. But what about, you know, our beloved mainframe platform? What does that really mean? Well, how do we steal them on a network? Well, we get a copy of your security database. Until recently, it was fairly straightforward to do with RACF. Obviously, you know, IBM have given us some extra stuff to do, and it's not recently. You know, we've had this stuff for a few years now, but we still see people out there running the RACF databases without KDF enabled, and I find that quite bizarre, really, because that makes it very, very difficult, to crack a password off a RACF database if KDF is enabled. I'm not going to say impossible, but virtually impossible. And another thing you can do is, if you've got your laptop and you've got admin rights on the laptop, install Wireshark and capture the data on the network as it's flying around from you. The reason I mention that is I had an argument with a technician who said he didn't need to encrypt his telnet connections to the mainframe whilst he was inside the data center, whilst he was inside the organization. He said because nobody from the outside can access it. And there was a network cable sticking up out of a table, and I just plugged a laptop into it, my own personal laptop, DHCP, IP address, I was straight on the network. Wireshark, I saw all their mainframes logins flying across Wireshark in the clear. Okay, you might be lucky, you might be able to guess it. My good friend Keith here may be a passionate follower of a certain football team, and all over his desk is memorabilia and scarves. What's the chances that his password might have something to do with that football team? There's always a chance. You might be able to guess it. Obviously, it's just how well do we know Keith? And some people know each other very, very well, and it's not that difficult to guess the password. What about if we obtain the password from a different server, say an LDAP server? And quite often, we'll see passwords between a distributed system and a mainframe, replicated, and it might be all the systems in the infrastructure have an 8-character password because we want to use the mainframe. And obviously lowest common denominator for password length is almost certainly going to be the mainframe at 8 characters. So if I could compromise your LDAP server, I've got your user ID and I've got your password, and away I go. So it's not just about stealing your mainframe security database. If you synchronize or use other forms of authentication for the mainframe, that 8-character password is still very viable. So very usable, I should say. So why would they target a mainframe? My personal pet subject, because the mainframe's not an isolated box anymore. You see the mask? It's not isolated. It's isolated here, but in the world we live in today, the mainframe is an open, connected, interconnected platform. And if there are going to be 175 zettabytes of data in 2025, a lot of that data will be, as it said here, in data centers or even in the cloud. Okay, so a lot of that data is going to be residing on a mainframe. So it's open. The mainframe's open these days, whatever flavor of API you use, the mainframe's open. And some APIs are down at the infrastructure level, whether that's IMS, Kix, Batch, others, and some are at the application level, some are at the networking level. But the thing is, the mainframe sits at the heart of a lot of data centers for a lot of organizations. And that is why the bad actors would be interested in us. It has value, our data has value. If you go out to the dark web and look to acquire bank details, £22 for a UK citizen, $9 for a North American US citizen. Account number, sort code, expiry date, and CVC. Okay. There is also this thing out there that they call a FULZ, F-U-L-L-Z, and I've mentioned this before. But think of this as a text file on an individual. So if you as a bad actor want to come and target a person, so say if somebody wanted to target me, they could go to the dark web and see if they could purchase for £29, yeah, not a great deal of money, of false that's got first name, last name, current address, previous address, yeah, mobile number, work number, if it can get it, my national insurance number, date of birth, credit card number, mother's name, maiden name, all the things we use to authenticate ourselves with, or yeah, control access to our personal information. And you can buy these things for as cheap as £29 or $18, depending on where you are. And you know, here's a screen grab from something on the on a website. Yeah, freshly fished bank accounts with random balance from our team. Yep. Comes with bank login info, user agent of the account holder, IP address of the account holder, and if we could scroll down this little left-hand box in the left-hand in that description field there, more and more information. Look at this, $35 US. They've got 84 of them available. Okay, so you just buy one, $35, a little bit more than it says here for the bank details, but there's obviously a lot, yeah, a lot of information here. But $35 paid for with a Bitcoin, simple as that. That's why that's why the bad actors are interested in our mainframe, because it has value. Yeah, so I've put this up there just as a little bit of a put people smile on people's face. So where does a lot of this data reside? Well, I wonder. Yeah, it resides on our mainframe as we've talked about. Yeah, but because it has value, yeah, because it's valuable, therefore the bad actors are interested in it. They are only interested in our data because it has commercial value to them. Okay. So how do you prevent this? Okay, so for me, it's all about three things: multi-factor authentication, two-factor authentication, and end user education. So let's start with three. Yeah, security is not an IT issue, it's a business issue. Okay, we have to educate our users. We have to phish them. We have to provide them training. We have to make certain they understand the risks and the threats when they get an email, and don't just press the link on it. We've absolutely got to get people to understand the risk here, and that comes from education. And then two is, yeah, don't rely on this, yeah, single factor. We must have, yeah, two-factor. We must have multi-factor here, and it doesn't matter what you use, whether you use a hard token, a soft token, an app on the phone or something. We shouldn't be today relying on just an 8-character password to log on to our mainframes. Yes, we can use passphrases, but we haven't seen a lot of adoption of that. But again, the phrase could be extracted from your security database or extracted from LDAP. Always make it something you have and something you know, and you're in a much better situation. Okay.
Hi, Keith.
Hiya, Mark. You all right?
Yeah, fine, thank you.
Good. I've just seen the presentation.
Yeah, what did you think? Was it okay?
Yeah, it was good. I think you got the message across.
Yeah.
What happened to continuity then? What were you wearing?
Don't worry about it. Nobody will have noticed. Okay.
Right. Okay. We
So-
hope they don't.
Yeah, we'll hope they don't. So just the summary to go then.
Yeah. Who's going to do the summary?
Well, yeah.
I think it should be me.
Well, I'm not too sure I'm happy about that.
Oh, it's the Banham and Wilson show. The Banham comes first. It's always that way round, isn't it? All good double acts.
No, we can't do it on surnames because Wilson always comes last. if we do
What
it
about
on surname.
Keith, Mark, Christian names? Keith always comes before Mark.
Okay, no names. What about experience? How long have you been doing this? I've been doing it 40 years.
Oh, I've been doing it 40 years, so that's
Okay.
not going to work.
What about a drinking contest?
I'm not having a drinking contest with you. I'm going to lose hands. We've all seen you drinking at GSE. There's no way I'm having a drinking contest with you. So,
What about football teams then? West Brom are in the Premier League. Where are QPR these days?
they're doing all right in the Championship. Thank you very much. Can I just remind you of the 1967 League Cup final?
Oh God, here we go again.
What was the score? What was the score at half time?
It was 2-0 to West Brom.
And what was the score at the end of the game?
I can't remember. I absolutely cannot remember.
3-2 QPR. Come on, you R's.
Okay, guys, I'll do the summary because people have their lives they need to be getting on with. But thanks both for the great sessions. Right, to summarise, when thinking about mainframe security, remember we need to look at it with the bigger picture. It's not a mainframe security issue. It's an IT security and business issue. Because of this wide view, you must educate yourself and your staff on all aspects of security. Cybersecurity criminals and threats are getting more advanced. We need to try to stay ahead with ongoing education, development, and utilising the tooling that's on offer to protect and combat. Remember, the mainframe is just as exposed as all the other platforms, and that's why MFA is a must. Again, utilising that tooling that's on offer. Because passwords aren't enough. Okay. Even strong passwords aren't enough. Okay. MFA is a must. Okay. Use the tools that are there to protect the users, your privileged users, and in essence, the enterprise. Please remember to submit your session feedback for Keith and Mark. This session is 1AR. And just a gentle reminder for the GSE UK Conference 2020 charity, if you want to follow the link there and make any kind of donations. But right now, back over to Keith and Mark to answer any of your questions, and hopefully they've stopped bickering now. Thanks. Bye.
Wow. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Keith. Thank you, Leanne, for that treble act. So, Mark, do we have any questions in the chat? Do I have to unmute you? Okay. Sorry. There you go.
Aha. No, we don't have any questions in the chat at the moment, Jamie. So anybody have any questions? We've got 6 minutes to go, and I'm sure we could fill it with one or two if you have them.
I've got a couple while we're waiting, actually, if that's all right, while we're waiting for people to just a couple of thoughts. So what's your view on kind of MFA adoption specifically for the mainframe in the industry? Is it still low uptake? Is getting there, or super uptake?
So for those who saw Greg Lotko's keynote yesterday, where he said that Vespa drink from the Casino Royale movie is shocking, that is what I would say. The uptake of MFA for our mainframe, for the users of mainframe tech, as I see it, is shocking. Nowhere near enough. I honestly don't understand why every systems programmer, every operator, every DBA, every IT security person, whether they be an administrator or a security engineer, are not logging onto the mainframes with some form of multi-factor authentication. It should just be a given, and I don't understand why we don't do it, because it's crazy. Both IBM and Broadcom have given us the ability to do this. It's very difficult. And Christian's just popped in a question, said it's quite easy to bypass. Christian, I got to say, I disagree with you. if you do it properly, it's very difficult to bypass, because I can set it up that says you can only log on to RACF ACF2 or top secret with that extra factor, and you cannot bypass it. Now you can put processes in and around to allow you to bypass it in an emergency, but it's very, very, I'm shocked. I honestly thought there'd be a mass surge to do this, but I really am surprised.
Yeah, I mean, when it first came out, it's like I think a lot of mainframe products, it takes time, but given that we've had MFA around for a long time, and actually, in fact, in our personal lives, we're subjected, to a lot of it. I'm really surprised that, the uptake is not bigger. And I was saying actually last week on Julie Berg's session around MFA that and I haven't studied the regulations recently, some of the security standards that are out there, like PCI DSS, that are sort of latest versions, but I'm pretty sure in there it does stipulate for things like privileged users that the cardholder environment, for example, should have MFA in place. And given what we know about the mainframe environment and what you said in your session just now about where the valuable data is held, we all know that cardholder data, etc., is there. It's just why not? I mean, how are they getting around it?
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple of comments in the chat window. James says it costs for each person that uses MFA. Absolutely, it does. But the cost of a breach to me, especially for an organisation that's in financial services or healthcare or insurance, okay, perhaps not so much retail, but still lots of data on there that would be of value. Yes, it does cost, but security is not free. And Christian states, I've got a book about hacking MFA. Yeah, absolutely, quite instructive. They are out there. I don't believe. And Lenny's got a good comment. Maybe we need a presentation from a customer who has installed MFA as a result of being attacked. Yeah, again.
Yeah. Bring it on, and that is a really good point. Actually, we love hearing user stories, right? About and we've had a few of these on GSE. It's very, very powerful. People love to hear about real world experiences out there. So just drop me an email if you've got a session, and like I say, particularly we're looking for MFA stories. Come forward.
Yeah, I mean, Damien's put a comment up there saying, they've looked at it, but they've got an impediment at the moment as their session manager is the impediment. Also note that the HMC does not fully support MFA, and you're absolutely correct, Damien. We should be getting these things into IBM. Again, it depends on where Kira made a comment about the boundary. Where do you put MFA? Keith talked about putting it at Windows. Do you put it at the Windows level? Do you put it at the session manager level? If you want to, personally, I agree with Keith. I would do it at your first entrance to the system. The first entrance to the first interaction you have with the system, that first time you authenticate, should be a multi-factor one. Personally, I would also do it at the session manager level. So I'm checking you as you log onto your laptop or your desktop or whatever, your VDI, and then I would do it at the session manager level. I would do it twice just to be on the safe side. That's how I would do it. But there are. There's a comment from Lenny about horse door bolt. Yeah. So Damien agreed. We're working on a change to a session manager. Damien, be more than happy to chat to you about that, because we've done that bit before. So we could have a coffee chat, albeit virtual coffee chat, about what's out there.
Yeah. And I think finally for me is you hit on a really good point around the kind of education and user awareness. It all starts with us. As we preach every day. It's not it's not an IT problem. It's a business problem, and we all have to work in partnership. It's what's the term? Person between keyboard and I forget. Yeah, you know what I mean.
PEBCA. Problem exists between keyboard and chair.
Absolutely. Yeah. But no, so we had a question. What do you do at RSM with your systems?
I'd like to say MFA, Graham, but I'm not going to say that. Yeah, we're a little bit like the decorator and the scruffy house, or the plumber and the dripping tap, but we have no commercial data on our systems. But yeah, you can only get to them if you're on the VPN. So we've got a level of protection, but we are going to roll out MFA for all of our mainframe systems. Absolutely. It's just our clients get in the way, keep asking us to fix their problems. We don't get a chance to fix our own.
Yeah. Okay. Any more questions from anybody before we close up? No?
Brilliant.
Okay, thank you so much, Mark and Keith and Leanne, for your piece there. Is I thought an excellent presentation, very thought-provoking indeed. And yeah, I think maybe you should think about having your own TV show or something. It'd be quite comical, I would say.
I don't think so. Okay.
But yeah, don't forget, ladies and gents, this is session 1AR for the purpose of feedback. So again, you're going to get sick of Jamie saying this by the end of this conference, but it is really important to our presenters and also to us, as a committee to help shape the conference for the future. And don't forget, if you're collecting CPE points or CPD points and you want that certificate with the evidence of all the sessions that you've attended, then you do need to provide that feedback. And also to remind you again, don't forget about our charity. I see the donations are going up and up and up, which is fantastic. A quick word on the agenda for today. So the conference is running throughout the day. This is the last security session for the day. We're back at 10:30 tomorrow with I think we've got 3 sessions on tomorrow, and then there's 4 on Thursday. So do tune in for those. But there's lots of other sessions running, throughout the day for the conference. So do stay tuned to them. And also we have a quiz which is hosted by Macro4 that starts at 7:30. So we've actually changed the time and reduced the slot for that, just to give you time to have dinner and so on. So that's at 7:30 till 8:30. I attended it last week, and by the way, I was codenamed Dr. Rakef, and I did terribly, but it was great fun to play. So do join us if you can for that. But now we have a break up until 12 o'clock. So I hope you can join for the next session then. And goodbye, everybody. Thank you.